if you do spend enough time underwater, eventually find something cool.
When wintertime hits the Columbia River and air temperatures drop below freezing, the waters can turn to ice and the snow-covered boat ramps bring new challenges to diving. The good news is there's never an issue finding good parking. This is normally a time to turn to winter activities like exploring our local mountains via snow machine or on skis. But Columbia River divers can only be away from the underwater world for so long, and soon the sirens of the deep come calling from the dark and the cold depths, and all it takes is a little motivation to get us back in the water regardless of the challenges. All it took for me was watching this dog doing what she loves to do regardless of the water temperatures and snowy obstacles. This display of passion got me fired up and made me realize that attitude is everything regardless of age, the weather, or the challenges that lay in our way. We're currently trying to solve an Oregon Trail disaster story and find a family of 5 missing 65 years somewhere in the Columbia River. So with my newfound motivation, provided by a highly motivated old dog who's not willing to waste a second while on this earth, it was time for me to push harder and get back to searching and discovering what lies below the Columbia River. With a recent break between ice and snowstorms, I went to work clearing the boat and loading the dive gear. This is a story of a recent dive in the Columbia River. I'll show you a little bit about how we prepare for this type of dive and take you down underwater and over a 90-foot cliff where the currents pushed me into a cave and how I dealt with it and how our search for a car failed, but we ended up with a possible murder weapon that might bring closure to another story. Today I have access to the ultimate secret weapon for finding treasure underwater. This is the Fisher Proton 5 magnetometer or metal detector. It's towed alongside my boat and can identify metal objects such as the car that belongs to the lost Martin family of 65 years, of which we are trying to find. This sensitive device costs close to $30,000 and it can easily be lost or damaged if it smashes into a rock or gets snagged in a gill net. Fortunately for me today, I don't currently own this device, so the pressure's off if our luck goes bad and we come back without it. This won't be an issue today because we have luck on our side. After a short boat ride to the search area, we fire up the magnetometer and begin our search. Our primary target is looking for the missing Martin family and their car. If you're not familiar with this story, go back and watch last week's video about Oregon's greatest mystery. The Martins went on a family drive in 1958, and the car and the family mysteriously disappeared and have never been seen since. I believe they are at this location. Within minutes of dialing in our oversized and expensive underwater metal detector, we get our first signal that something is below the boat made of metal and about the size of a car. Over the next hour, we identify a total of 3 targets that will require further investigation. This is the part where I get to brave the 37-degree waters and do what I love, searching and discovering on scuba. In order to stay warm and dry during my dives in this 37-degree water, I need specialized gear. Most diving is done in waters that range from about 70 degrees to 80 degrees and can be enjoyed while wearing a basic wetsuit. Wetsuits work by trapping a thin layer of water between your body and the wetsuit in the same way that your clothes trap a layer of air between you and the environment and protects you from the cold. Cold water diving ranges from 45 to 65 degrees and requires a thicker wetsuit or even a dry suit. A dry suit is waterproof and has wrist and neck seals to keep you dry. We wear thick insulated undergarments under the dry suit to keep us warm. When the water temperatures drop into the 30s, we add a battery pack and a heated vest and even heated gloves. As I drop off the boat today, my first thought as I hit the water is, I sure hope I remember to tightly zip up my dry suit or else this will be a really short dive. We attached a magnet to whatever lies below at this site, so I have a guideline down to our target. I start my descent by venting excess air from my dry suit and begin to drop down to 40 feet, where hopefully I'll find the missing Martins and their 1958 Ford wagon. The visibility is better than I expected at about 5 to 8 feet. Prior to arriving at this dive site, I checked the flow from the Dalles Dam just upriver, and the spill gates were quiet, so the currents will be moderate today. If these gates unexpectedly opened while I was diving, things would get a little bit more challenging. As I arrived at the end of my guideline, I realized the magnet was actually just stuck in the rocks, and the metal we detected was just a pile of rebar and scrap metal. Since I was diving right at the edge of an underwater cliff, I decided to drop off into the darkness to see if I could make it down to the bottom to investigate. If there's a chance of a car being at this location, it'd be at the bottom of this cliff. It's always intimidating dropping off a cliff on scuba into the unknown. I never know what's waiting for me at the bottom or even how deep it goes. Today my maximum depth is no more than 100 feet. I'm using a higher percentage of oxygen in my tanks to reduce the risk of forming bubbles in my tissues if I accidentally ascend too quickly while breathing compressed air. The trade-off is that this air can become toxic at 120 feet, causing me to convulse or drown. It's a reasonable trade-off for divers who know the rules and follow the rules, but you have to follow the rules. Alright, enough of the safety talk, but it's crucial I monitor my depth and I don't drop below 120 feet. In order to safely descend this cliff, I start heading down the wall feet first, and as the pressure builds, it compresses the warm air layer in my dry suit, and I quickly become negatively buoyant and drop down even faster. I add air into my dry suit using a valve, and this slows and controls my descent, otherwise I might crater into the rocks below. As I continue to drop into the unknown, I really hope the bottom isn't deeper than my 120-foot limit today. I hug the cliff face and slowly drop, and the current starts to challenge me and messes with my descent. At 65 feet, I realize I have now been pushed into an overhang of rock that turns into a cavern. You can see my bubbles pooling on the ceiling, showing me I'm no longer on a rock face, but inside a small cave. I'm always expecting the unexpected in the Columbia, so this is just another exciting dive that I've been training for most of my life. After checking out the cavern, I continue to the bottom and look for a car. The bottom today came into view at 90 feet, and I begin my search. You can see why I wear a helmet, as I almost drive my head into a sharp rock while searching. After a short battle with some abandoned ropes and netting, I make my way closer to the wall and discover a rifle wedged in the rocks. My time is running low and I need to slowly make my way back to the surface. At least I found something cool today to share with the guys in the boat and get to bring something back from my trip down the cliff today. I'm often wondering why criminals think that by simply throwing a gun off a bridge or into a river, it'll disappear forever and keep it out of the hands of the prosecutors or police. We almost always find their guns when they toss them into our underwater world. Our world is one of searching and discovering underwater history and mysteries, and now it's time to get this one back to the dock and into the hands of law enforcement. This could simply be a lost rifle from a hunting trip, or it could play a key role in bringing closure to a legal case or even solving a mystery, like a murder.
So, unfortunately, we didn't find the Martin car today, but if you do spend enough time underwater, eventually find something cool.
So with the rifle off to the lab for identification, I'm reminded as to why we're really here today. To find the lost Martin family, missing 65 years now. Although we didn't find the car, we now know a few more places that we don't need to look. It's been 4 years of searching for us, and with access to higher and higher tech equipment and better diving skills, it's only a matter of time before we run across the missing family and their car. We'll never give up searching, and soon we will discover the location of the family and bring closure to this case. This is Search and Discovery.